So this is 7:20 a.m. the morning the shed's getting moved. So I want everyone to see.
This is literally the last day Dawn will ever have to look at this shed in the morning for a sunrise vlog.
So then I'm going to show you tomorrow morning at 7:20 a.m. what this looks like here.
I have a secret. It's going to be raining tomorrow.
No, it is actually.
It is actually going to be
All right. Anyway, one of these mornings, we'll compare views, okay? Because this is literally the view outside our windows, all the windows on this side of the house. So today's the day we're going to move the shed and hope nothing happens to it in the process.
Yeah, we're hoping for only good things here.
Yeah. It's happening. I can't believe this is the 5-year anniversary of us living here, and it's one of those things that you just didn't think was maybe going to happen for a long time.
No, I think it was like, so Dawn and I dream a lot. This was always kind of like, I thought, just like a pipe dream. Like,
yeah,
it's a cute thought, but it's not going to happen.
So today we want to show you the whole process of moving the shed from start to getting to its new location. Reiterate why we were doing this. It's not just for the sunrises, but the sunrise was part of the motivation. So we had this pole shed behind our house, 80 feet by 40 feet. 40. And so in order to move it, what they needed to do was basically build up a metal frame on the inside.
To keep the building straight, they had to put I-beams, like crisscross I-beams, and secure these I-beams to all the poles for the building, so that then when they cut the bottom of the poles and they lift the building up, it stays straight and square and doesn't get all like wonky, if that's a definition.
So they were taking care of that. Tom had to prep the building site, and he had to drill holes in it so that when they brought the building over to the new spot, he could put new poles next to the old ones after they had cut them off. And so I think that was that one of the biggest stressors, was wondering if your poles were going to line up, the holes were going to line up, and also if the building pad would be dry enough and hard enough for them to drive on it.
Yeah, so this used to be trees where the shed was going, and so we just did that a few months ago, built the pad, so the pad didn't get to settle. Like, it wasn't in a place where the ground had really compacted, outside of us running heavy equipment over it trying to push it down. And then it got really soft this spring with all of the rain and snow and clay and stuff. But yes, outside of the pad perpetually sinking and trying to get the holes in the exact location and not knowing if I did it right or wrong until the building is actually over the spot was fairly stressful.
Yeah, because the first part, they kind of pulled out. I mean, we weren't, like, all of a sudden they're just like moving and the shed's moving, and they were actually going pretty quickly. I mean, I felt like for a humongous shed that's been behind your house ever since you've lived here. Yeah, no, it moved pretty quick. So they pulled out into the field, and then what did they have to do? They like stopped.
Yeah, they stopped, and then so the rear axle dollies that the I-beams were sitting on, they had chains that they were able to ratchet from side to side and turn the rear sets of axles, and then they had to lift the building back up, spin the axles 180 degrees so they're facing the other direction, so then they could steer it the other way, because the rest of the trip will be them backing the shed. All right, so Dawn and I were just talking here about how we're showing you all the ugliest part of our property. This was a lean-to that had fallen down like long before we bought the place, and we plan on cleaning this up and getting it all fixed up. It's just we haven't gotten there yet. And so I am getting ready to tell Dawn what the boys and I decided we're gonna do with where the shed was. I don't know, we haven't told you. Where the shed was just located at had one like third full length of the shed was concrete and the other 2/3 was gravel. So burnout pad.
So I don't know, it took about an hour to get pulled out into the field, flip the axles around, and then back up to the pad. And then that's when I could tell you were super nervous watching them. So they started backing up, and it went pretty well, until they got halfway up?
Yeah, I was nervous for two reasons. We got a couple semi-loads of 3-inch rock, and we like sprinkled it on the pad and the ramp, like to get up onto the pad. We put it on that, and then we kind of beat it down with the payloader to try and build a solid base. And my concern when I saw them backing up, and my concern the whole time, was that they were just going to sink in and get crazy stuck. All right, so they're going to go grab their skid loader and see if they can push up on the I-beam, I'm guessing, to help it up there. If not, I put the loader on the other end of the shed there so we can hook some chains to the loader and help pull it up on, because we kind of anticipated, we've been having a tough time trying to get this pad and ramp and everything super dry and beat down so that they could get up onto there. So we anticipated having a tough time getting it on, how we're having to do this. So if this doesn't work with their skid loader, we're going to grab the loader and we're going to hook chains to the back side of the beams, and we'll pull it up with the loader, then it'll go on no problem. So we'll see how she goes. Hopefully they can get it on there good and no problems. Yeah, I got nervous because I could see the semi sinking, and I was like, oh no.
So they end up using their skid loader to kind of help it, and then also use the hydraulics on the truck, it seemed like. Yeah,
they were able to do it with that. They didn't need the loader. Their kingpin, if you know a semi, the fifth wheel plate is usually fixed, or if it's adjustable, it's kind of like latches you can move, but theirs is hydraulic, and so they could slide the fifth wheel plate back and forth. And so they ended up backing the truck up, sliding anyway, yes, they ended up using the hydraulics of the semi.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because it seemed to really work well.
Yeah, no, it worked to get that last 10 feet for sure.
And so then they got it into place, but the holes weren't exactly lining up.
Okay, so I laid this thing out like perfectly. I had string line down where the building should have gone exactly, and I had the holes. I built myself a blueprint, and I had all my holes laid out. I augured them all in, and the building, when they brought it in, they did not line up with my lines, which I'm super particular on locations. And so they may have gave me a hard time and told me I can't read a tape measure and that I don't know where. Anyway, I convinced them to slide the building and line the south edge up with my lines. And the holes magically got significantly closer to the right locations.
So they were able to get it pretty close when they were backing it in, and then they ended up disconnecting the semi and putting like little rollers underneath the I-beams.
Yeah.
And then they did the final adjusting with that and the skid loader. So it was pretty interesting to watch it all happen. So they got it into place, and then Tom had to go back then and start dropping in the poles, buddying them up to the...
But before they did that though, so they got it into location, and then they had to jack the building up.
Oh, right.
Because so the building had 12-foot sidewalls. When you move a building like this, it's easiest just to raise the building higher or leave it the exact same height. So we're like, well, we might as well go higher. Like, now's the time to do it. So we went 4 feet higher so that campers can fit in easier.
And a car lift hoist.
And yeah, a lift, which we didn't need 16-foot sidewalls for a lift. So we went 4 feet higher. We're gonna do a different color of tin on the bottom. But so they get the building level. So they go up with it, and then they level it from all corners and make sure there's no twist in it. And then, I mean, they're using like, I saw like 1/4-inch thick shims. Like, they were getting it super accurate. And then after they left, I went around with a level. And it was like perfectly level. Yeah. So they did a good job with all that. And yes, then they leave, so then their job is done until I have the building secured to all the new poles.
Yeah. So Tom has a lot more work to do.
Like a lot.
He'll get all the poles in, he's gonna cement them in, and then put boards around it, put tin on, we're gonna put some windows in it, service doors, reconfigure the overhead doors on the end, and then he's also gonna put an addition off one side, because he's been
wow, when you list this off, it really sounds like a lot.
If anyone's been watching your channel lately, we've been acquiring some vehicles, so we need to have enough room for everything now. No, it's good.
We needed room anyway before. We
did.
had this shed. There was a couple tractors in it, but it was fairly tight before. And now if we turn a section of it into a shop,
yeah,
then it's not just storage. Then it's workable space. So.
Yep. And on a completely unrelated note, I wanted to let you know that our Take Your House Back course is open right now. It's discounted, and we have added a ton of really new great content to it. But also coming up on Saturday, May 1st, we're gonna do a full day declutter with you. So from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, Cass, Dana, and myself are gonna walk you through decluttering every area of your house. And so our hope is that you can get a really great jump start on your house, be super motivated, practice the principles that we teach, and that by the end of the day, you're gonna feel really awesome about your house and what you've gotten accomplished, knowing that you have people to do it with. We'll be there cheering you on and answering your questions and encouraging you. So you can find all the details for that down below. And again, yes, part of the reason we wanted to move this building was because it was blocking the sunrise. And honestly, to me, the cost of moving it would be worth it, because I'll show you now what the sunrise looks like. I said this was 7 o'clock the previous morning. Here's 7 o'clock the next day, and some other mornings here. I've been documenting it. In my book, it was worth it just for that. But the other reason is because, well, Tom did want to raise it up. He wants to finish it out for a shop. So we knew if he was going to do that, then moving it was, you know, not a ton more work. Right. But also, we've talked about raising up our house similar to how they just did with this shed and putting a new basement under it. And if we're going to go through all that work, we would slide our house back a little bit further, pretty much where this shed was. Yep. It would make our yard flow better, and it would move us back from that oak tree that's there so that we can preserve it.
We don't want to damage, so this oak tree is humongous. We don't want to damage the oak tree. If you're wondering why would we pick up our house and move it, our basement is only half of what you see from the outside. Like it's very small, and it's not the full foundation of the house. So we thought, you know what, if we build a full basement that has like either walkout or lookout windows, that's the full size of the house, we move the house back onto there, then we could put like a living room down there, or like another bedroom or something. Yeah. And so then we could actually finish the basement part and then have
it would, I mean, it would double the size of our house basically, and just give us some really, more usable space as the kids get older.
Yep.
And that square footage going down and doing a basement is actually cheaper than adding on and lumber and all of that. So that's what our long-term plan is. And so Tom had been talking about like, well, I do want to finish part of this for a shop, but I was like, no, you can't do that until we move it.
Yeah, so. and it was the kind of thing where we both agreed, like, ideally you move the building for what we want to do long-term with our property in life.
Yeah.
And so then it made sense, like, well, don't put any money into the shed until we move it, because it'll all get wasted, so. And
we are hoping our long-term plan would be to live here forever, so that would be our goal. So it feels worthwhile to make these investments now to
And if you're curious, the building is perfectly in level, or in line with the front of the office building. That was that was how I wanted them to slide it. It was a little crooked, and I was like, no, it can't. It can't be crooked. Being crooked just really bothers me. Like, it has to be straight.
So we're still going back and forth exactly what colors we'll do this building, but white and black, gray and black. The bottom will be black. That tin is already ordered, but then we're going to paint the rest of the building just to make it match the other stuff in our yard and look a little bit nicer. So.
Yeah, paint over the galvanized. Yep.
So we'll definitely show you that as we do it, and Tom's progress as he goes along.
And you may see me age during this process.
So, and Tom has a video on his channel too where he went into a little more depth of the process of moving the building.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, maybe my video is a little more fun, but I mean, it's just, I'm biased, so.
Yep. And we also talked recently about what will happen with the excursion, so we talked about that on Wednesday too, so that video is there as well, so.
Yeah, that there excursion.
But I think we're just glad to have it done. The weather was a little iffy for a little while. It got really wet here. We weren't sure if it was gonna be able to happen right away. So it still honestly feels a little surreal to me that it's moved, and the view out the back, I don't know. I walked in the house and I was just like, this is incredible. You can see for miles. It's phenomenal. I feel very blessed now to have this view out the back, and it's cool.
Yeah, and I actually climbed up on all these beams, and I stood up on the beams and looked out the door of the shed faces east now.
Yeah.
And I can see way further than you can from the house from
I
there.
know.
Like,
I think when we move the house, we might need to like raise it up.
Bump it
We'll
up.
be like, why is their house so tall?
be like, oh,
It looks silly, but you should see the view.
it'd be so windy.
Yeah. You know, so well, that was our excitement, but we hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for coming along for the journey.
Yeah.
I know it still seems weird though, right? That we're just like, oh, we're just gonna move a shed. Like, who does that, right? Well, we hope that you have a great weekend. We hope your projects go smoothly. We love you, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.